Hello, humans. This is Corey. I wanted to tell you about this beautiful and sacred upcoming retreat we have this year. The problem is, for most of us, it's really difficult for us to have moments and periods of stillness long enough to have meaningful spiritual and emotional experiences. I knew exactly what it felt like growing up to be in emotional suffering and not have the guide that I needed to be able to heal and improve my life. What's so powerful about these retreats is not only are they an access point to stillness and connection with the group, but they are an access point to deeper healing and deeper spiritual experiences like you've never experienced. These have had a huge impact in my life and have helped me go deeper. They have truly changed the landscape of me and my family's life as I've come home with greater light and understanding and love. We want you to join us this year on this beautiful retreat. Send us a message. Go to theemotionalblueprint.com and send us a message on that website, and we will send you more information. You can also go to originswellness.org, and all the information is on that website again. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
Acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the Emotional Blueprint.
Okay, I want to share this story with you, my friend. Mm-hmm. And something that has been weighing on me and us both, actually. That's going to be cool to talk about. The other day, I was walking outside, and it was Christmas Day. And it was really peaceful. And there was definitely like a calmness, like a calm energy. And I live by this, we can call it a lake. It's basically like a swamp. And as I get closer to the water, the waves are ferocious. The wind is blowing and the waves are very aggressive. And I feel like the water was trying to tell me something, which doesn't happen a lot. So I took a moment, I said a little prayer, and then I went down to the water. And anytime I'm by water and I'm feeling this stillness, I always feel like it's important to touch it for whatever reason. So as soon as I touched the water, I had kind of this vision of what a lot of people in the area were experiencing on that Christmas day. And there was a lot of there was a lot of pain, man, a lot of sadness, a lot of abuse, people being really selfish, people being really cold, a lot of isolation, just a lot of kind of negativity and anger and kind of hate. Mm-hmm. And this experience was really profound. It's I saw these in snapshots pretty fast, and I knew it was real collective of what was happening in the community or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Currently.
Yeah, I don't know if it was happening in the moment, but definitely that day of Christmas. And I started walking further, and as I was walking in the trees, there was this beautiful symbolism of all the trees were white. The bark was white. The trees were fully white. And then as I started walking further, the trees gradually changed and started to become really dark. And I knew instantly that that was a symbol of what is happening for people, generally speaking. And so I know we've talked about this a little bit, but we should talk more about love and relationships, and I think how to preserve that and how to grow that right now feels just like pretty important. And so any thoughts, man, before we start to maybe dive into that a little bit?
I just think that it's a really hot topic. Not so much that it's something that people are always talking about nowadays. I think it's just like, it's a really important thing. I'm feeling that too, just in society or in the places that I go, that there's like just a lack of, and it's of what, you know? I think that love might be what is starting to be missing.
I was up in the mountains with my friend a while ago, and he was like, "Hey, Corey, I know you're a therapist and you're into like learning and whatever." He's like, "Can you recommend to me a good book on love?" And I was like, I don't know any book that talks about it. Like, there's a lot of books that like maybe touch on it, but like this like expertise book on like love, maybe it's out there. I've never heard of it, but it just came to my, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, sorry, I wish I could recommend something. But there's this really powerful passage in the Bible that breaks down love. And as we've talked about before, there's like so many different types of love. And so we want to talk about what is the deepest form of love that we can like strive for. Like, what's the goal?
Yeah. And
then we should talk more about like how we can actually start incorporating that in application in our relationships. And so in the Bible, it talks about the deepest form of love. So the deepest form of love in Greek, the word that they use for that is agape. The deepest form of love that it describes in the Bible, which is very specific, but they call charity. So it says, so it breaks down all of the characteristics of this deep, important form of love. It says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. So we're going to break these down because these are all like, I think of like a tree, how charity is the trunk, but there's
branches.
Branches of what it actually looks like. And then there's the roots on actually how to cultivate it and grow it. Yeah. So it'll be cool to talk about that. But the first part of charity, the first form of this deepest form of love is suffering long. And so what does that mean to suffer long?
I think of patience. Like that's like the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of that. Suffering something for not a short period of time.
I think so, man, for sure. Another powerful teaching in Buddhism that I think has a lot to do with suffering long is they talk about, in Buddhism, they talk a lot about silent understanding. I really like those two words together, silent understanding. And I think that plays a huge role in being patient, because a big part of being patient is not being reactive and obviously taking time to accept the situation for what it is. I don't like this, but what do I need to do to accept it? And I think that's my thought on what you're saying too, which is cool. What you said is that to suffer long, really, I think the word that comes to mind is like acceptance. And so to deepen that, it's like, okay, something difficult happens. How do we actually accept it? Because that word is thrown out there a lot. And I don't think people actually know how to accept. So let's talk. We should talk about that for a second.
How do we accept what is?
I think it's cool to think about, okay, we're talking about like, if you get better at doing this is a part of love. The deepest. So if you get better at doing this, this means that you're going to be able to bring in more love into relationships. If you are better at accepting difficult things in your life, that turns into, I have more to give in my relationships.
And why is that? Because you can accept more from the other person? You can accept more of what they are in a more loving way? Or?
I think the biggest thing, okay, so when we talk about challenges, there's always maybe some negative emotions that are involved with whatever the challenge is. That might be stress, that might be sadness, hurt, whatever. In Buddhism, going back to Buddhism, they talk about how one of the greatest forms of acceptance is feeling pain. So to me, that's a big part of what it means to accept something is I'm surrendering to it. Kind of like what we've talked about. I'm not running away from it. I'm not trying to avoid it. I'm going towards it. And if it's sadness or if it's hurt or if it's guilt, I'm taking time to actually let it affect me and kind of accept it. Because if I don't do that, that pain stays there and then it affects our relationships always.
Oh, I like that. So by accepting what is, you can see clearer to be able to have those opportunities in your relationships to share more love or to be there for them or to, I like that.
Yes, spiritual teacher. Yes. Yes, sensei. Yes. Well, this has always been such a powerful truth to me that I think about often, that has always stayed there for years, which is any negative feeling that isn't dealt with, that is stored in our body, is internal fog. So before we started this, you were referencing a little bit like the saying in the Bible by Jesus, which he says, "He that has eyes to see, let him see." He's not talking about seeing physically.
Yeah.
He's talking about seeing emotionally and spiritually. And so he that has eyes to see, let him see our own pain. Let him see our own negativity. And then we deal with that. We address that. We process that. We feel that if we need to. And then it allows us to then see other people more clearly.
Yeah. I like that.
It's such a hard teaching for people to I think integrate this truth that all negative emotions really are internal fog. You only can really connect with that when you witness it in your own life. Me just saying that to someone is just, it's words. You know, they're like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, interesting." But like, I've just seen that so much in my own life. I see it a lot. One of my weaknesses, I see it a lot when I'm like impatient in my family. There's maybe some frustration, a negative emotion of maybe frustration. And if I'm not seeing that, and that is taking a little bit of a root, then I'm more quick to react. I'm not as understanding. I'm not actually seeing my daughter's like throwing an apple on the ground. And instead of seeing it like, oh, she's just playing and like having fun and it's just an apple and it costs 30 cents. Like, it's fine. If I'm frustrated, I'm like, hey, don't waste that. Like, what are you doing?
Just go grab
we
the
can't
apple.
waste apples.
Yeah.
Like, we have no money right now. Like, pick that up. I'm going to eat it. Like, it's like, I'm not seeing in that moment. There's internal fog that is there. So this whole like suffer long, I don't think it means that we just have to suffer for a long time. I think there's a deeper meaning of like, hey, part of actually suffering long is like accepting what you need to so that you can make it, so that you can endure. You like kind of this cliche, but true saying, like, you can't control what happens to you in your life, but you definitely can control how you feel, and you can let go, and you can have a beautiful perspective on something. That's how we suffer long.
Yeah.
I think it talks about in the Bible, it talks about that produces like those rubies, more priceless, or more valuable than, I don't know, valuable rubies or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the reference exactly.
And I feel like it also, like with like suffering long, if it's about acceptance and continually looking inside of yourself to be able to see outside clearer or those around you clearer, that's something that will never stop being a thing to do. Like, no matter what age you are, if you want to continually see those around you or react positively to the situations that happen, like, you have to continue to suffer that, looking inward, dealing with that and accepting that, never avoiding that. Like, that's a task, you know, that's an undertaking to do that for your whole life, or to have a goal to do that so that you can love those around you. I feel like that's a big, it feels to me like, well, that's a lot. Like that really does mean you're in it for the long haul. If that's what you're trying to do, is look inward all the time like that.
I love what you're saying, man. It's like that. It goes back to the how important the practice is of like having a daily emotional kind of check-in. Like, what negative feelings came up for me today?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's frustration. Okay. Every time I feel frustrated, it means that there's some kind of imbalance within myself. What do I need to shift to let go of that, or listen to that emotion so it's not there the next day?
Mm-hmm.
People are naturally the most motivated about relationship in regards to relationships. So if you haven't experienced this, it's like, I think most people have, like, just really get in touch with this. Like, when I'm feeling negative emotions, I'm just not seeing other people or like with the clarity that I need to have this like love and connection. So like, the whole like suffer long thing, it makes sense why that, and the acceptance piece, it makes sense why that is maybe one of the first things that's important.
Exactly. Check yourself, look inward. It's so interesting because this is like, I've been really asking, like praying and stuff to know, like, what should I be focusing on? And it's funny that we're talking about charity, because that was already something I went straight to. I was like, okay, obviously I need to like find more love in general. If I'm like feeling frustration while just driving on the road with people, or if I'm like upset about something, like I started looking into it and I asked, and the response that I got for myself was, you always have a choice. You always have a choice how you're going to act, how you're going to react. You have a choice how you want to present yourself to the person that you care about. And that's why I kind of was saying it's kind of a tough job to do this, to suffer long, because you do always have a choice to look in and look at yourself first before validating the feelings that you have. Even no matter how true that is, you still have a choice of how you can treat that person, or how you can feel about it, how you can react. It's
dude, it's so powerful what you're saying. If you want to learn more about like victimhood, go back and listen to the podcast. I think we'll probably title it like the story of Anna. She talks a lot. She goes through this crucible of trauma. And one of her realizations that we were talking about with her was like, oh, like I'm actually being a victim. I'm actually believing this deception that people are causing me all of these negative emotions. And don't get me wrong, people can cause pain for us. The only emotion that people can actually cause that they have control over is people can hurt us. And we can actually do quite a bit to be in control of that. And we can maybe talk more about that another time. But out of all the spectrum of negative emotions that we can experience, there's 10 other main ones other than hurt. There's only one that someone else is mostly responsible for. So this whole like victimhood of like, oh, he said something rude and he made me feel this way, or he made me frustrated, or he made me angry. It's a form of being a victim, which is a form of not taking responsibility for our own emotions. We can't control what other people do, like you're saying, but we can own what we feel, and we can listen to those emotions. And when we listen, they tell us exactly what we need to do so that we can let go of those emotions. And what I've been really surprised about is how little the emotions actually tell us you need to go and get this other person to resolve this for you. Or you, obviously they never say that.
It almost, it's
they never say that.
Yeah.
But I've been so surprised how like, it's always about me and what I need to look at first. If my wife is consistently doing something that is offensive or rude or whatever, I might say something, but the goal is to obviously to suffer long first, to accept our part first. Such a big theme of the podcast that we've talked about that for sure. So any other thoughts on that, man? We've got like 8 good other ones here.
Let's keep moving.
Okay. I have maybe one more thought on the whole acceptance piece. I know we're referencing the Bible a lot so far. One of the coolest stories of acceptance is the story of Job, who, if you believe this is true, cool. If you want to view it as a story, cool. But the story of Job goes, there's this perfect and upright man who didn't partake in evil. And he was one of the wealthiest and most blessed in all the land. And the story goes, Satan goes to God and Satan says, hey, God, if you let me destroy all of his crops and touch everything in his life, Job will curse you to your face. And God says, go for it. I'm paraphrasing.
Right. I think he did say go for it.
That'd be cool. That's how God talks to me anyways. And I just love this because to make the story short, so he loses all of his like animals like burn and get stolen. And he has 10 children, I think. They're all eating in the oldest brother's shed. This huge gust of wind comes and collapses the shed, and all of his 10 children die. Well, can you imagine? How does Job respond? The symbolism of this is he rips his garment, he rips his shirt, which is an ancient symbol at the time of grief and accepting sorrow and pain. It's like, that's just kind of like, and he falls to the ground. So he's accepting his pain, like we're talking about. He feels it. And he also shaves his head, which is another symbol, an ancient symbol at the time of
grief.
I think, yep.
Like loss.
Yep. And through feeling his pain and accepting it and submitting to it, this beautiful insight and realization comes from him, or truth of God gives and God takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So the coolest thing about this story is it's such a strong message that I think is so important for us to remember. Like, no matter what happens to me, I am going to choose good. No matter what happens to me, I'm going to do good. It's like really powerful to me.
Me too.
There's such a strength in this acceptance and facing it. Like I love what you were saying. It literally, acceptance. A lot of men think that if I go towards my pain and I accept it, it makes me weak. That's a direct lie. It does for a moment. You feel weak in the moment, and you get stronger afterwards, and you are able to continue to do good.
Yeah, I think kind of what stands out to me, like there's so much beauty in that story, in the fact that he does all of these things to show how much pain he's in. He doesn't hide that at all.
No,
that ripped him apart, literally and figuratively, right? Tore his whole family apart and his life. And he felt the grief. And I think part of that acceptance is feeling it and not avoiding it, not pushing it away or denying it. You don't have to be a stone-hearted person to not be a victim or to not blame other people. You don't have to just not have feelings. Like, those things are valid. To feel that way is valid, but how will you react to that? It's just, I think it makes me emotional because it's so hard to do.
It is so hard to do.
I think we've all felt that before, trying to choose the high ground, or, taking the high road or whatever, or being the good person in the situation and being humble and trying to make a better out of it. I think everyone knows what that feels like,
It's harder for men to do. Women generally are more naturals, allowing themselves to feel. It's more culturally accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So think about what we're talking about. Like, okay, a guy is dating a girl, and he finds out that his girlfriend unexpectedly cheated on him, and he's driving home, having this Job-like experience, feeling this betrayal, this hurt, and like this sadness. He's not even feeling it. It's just there. It's there.
Yeah.
From the moment. And as he's driving home, what we want him to do is to go in his room, close the door, get on his knees, and choose to feel it. Where that is so unnatural. And so that's why you have to the turning point I see in almost every single person I've seen in therapy is this turning point where they are willing to try it. They choose to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they see what happens afterwards. They start, don't get me wrong. It's rent at the beginning. You're ripped apart. You feel gutted. But the magic of, the Spirit of Christ is that when we choose to feel, we tap into that healing source that is universal, whatever you believe that is. There is a universal healing source when I choose to feel, period. So it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Dane, do you have a thought on that, man? Are you good?
I just had more of a question than anything.
We love Dane's questions most of the time.
Good questions only.
I feel kind of, we don't have to go into it now, but maybe we can talk about this offline. I don't quite understand what it means to accept pain. I don't quite understand that, to be dead honest.
That's a great question.
And I wonder if others are going to struggle with, it just feels very not like tangible.
Let's make it more tangible. Thanks, Dane.
Yeah.
Let's first define what pain is. So pain is hurt, sadness, or guilt. These are the natural kind of, you could say, innate emotions that are meant to naturally arise within us through our experience of living. So that's what pain is: hurt, sadness, or guilt. Those are the emotions that you want to choose to feel when you notice them as a starting point. So kind of that example that we talked about, Dane, of this guy who's, his girlfriend breaks up with him. He needs to take time to choose to feel that sadness and hurt as the first step to heal, basically.
I guess my question is, like, what's the difference between feeling it and accepting it? Or is it the same?
It's the same.
Okay.
Yep. Feeling it is accepting it. That's how do we accept something? We feel it if it's pain. Mm-hmm. Now, what if it's not pain? Meaning, what if it's like for anger, frustration, shame, anxiety, those other emotions? Those emotions aren't technically pain emotions. Those are what we call suffering emotions. So when we're suffering, that's when we need to, like, using frustration as an example. If I'm feeling really frustrated at my daughter, what that emotion means is I am experiencing some kind of personal imbalance within myself. And so what I need to do is what does it mean to accept that? Well, it means to listen to it. Well, how do I listen to it? I have to take time and I have to ask myself, like, what am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling frustration. What does it mean? Well, I know it always means that I'm imbalanced in some way and I need to process that a little bit. And it always leads to some kind of like perspective shift or action that I need to take. For example, you know what? I physically just haven't been very active. And I think my body's just kind of feeling a little bit irritable. So I need to like make sure I really need to get into a better habit of like moving my body consistently. And that can be, for example, one of the answers of what it means, Mm-hmm. The beautiful thing about frustration is that it isn't just a signal of emotional imbalance. It's a signal of any type of imbalance. That's what's cool about these emotions. Emotions don't just stay in their zone of what we need emotionally. They stay in the zone of what we need in our relationships, what we need in our job. Mm-hmm. They're the great revealers of secrets. That's probably a longer explanation than you were bargaining for.
No,
does that make sense though?
I think
if it's pain, the first step is you need to feel it. If it's a suffering emotion, you got to go to the emotional guide that we're going to be posting all over the show, and you got to look at that and take time to listen to it.
So pain is hurt,
sadness, and guilt.
Sadness or
guilt. Yep. Those are the feeling emotions. Those are important to feel first.
Mm-hmm. How do you know that you've accepted it?
When it goes away.
So the pass through you type thing?
Kind of. Okay, let's go back to that example of the guy who's driving and his girlfriend breaks up with him. So in order for him to fully accept it, it requires the first step to accepting it is he has to feel it. So he has to go home and feel that sadness and hurt, let's say. And then the second step is after feeling it, like we were talking about earlier, the fog begins to clear. Now he's able to see the situation more for what it is. Now he's able to learn. So step 1, feel. Step 2, reflection. And then step 3 is action. Okay, for example, he might have an insight from his hurt that says like, well, dude, like, yes, this what she did was really messed up, but you might have played a little bit of you might have done something. It can actually reveal the truth to him of something like you have some unhealthy patterns with women that you need to look at so that you don't continue to date the wrong type of women or something, And then if he takes action on that, then he is fully following that process of acceptance. So acceptance is feeling it if it's pain, reflection, then action.
Cool. That's really helpful. Thanks, man.
Of course, dude. Okay. The deepest form of love, charity. The second part of it is kindness. Charity, the deepest form of love is kind. What does that mean? To be kind.
Kindness is kind of a tough one because
it's thrown around so much.
Yeah, like, you know, everybody's grandma's got one of the, like, some saying in the kitchen or something about kindness, or and like I don't know, the first word that comes to my mind is gentle with kindness.
I think that's really beautiful, especially for men. That's a lost part of the masculine approach. So we talked about how men are becoming more masculine and women are actually becoming more masculine. So gentleness, that means gentleness is becoming a lost quality.
Mm-hmm.
So important. I totally think you're spot on.
Yeah. I just get this picture of my own, like, I always try and compare these things to myself and the experiences that I have. And it's like, well, if I get into a heated conversation with, like, my girlfriend, I mean, they don't get that heated, but like, but when I'm really into the conversation, I'll sit up straighter and I'll make more eye contact. And sometimes I'll talk faster. Sometimes I'll talk a little bit louder. And those things can be perceived a different way. And I'm just really involved in the conversation. And I realize how much of a difference just taking a pause, changing my elevation, how I'm sitting, how our eyes are meeting, how I'm talking, and what level of, you know, volume I'm talking at. And I've noticed such a difference in how she reacts in those conversations if I'm able to be aware of that and be more gentle and be more kind, is how because it's like I'm a problem solver, and so I want to blow through it and find the solution immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to understand it first before a solution can be brought up. And so it's like I have to kind of take a chill pill for a second and let her catch up in the conversation. And that to me feels like I'm being kind.
I love the principle of gentleness when it comes to, like, the soft startup.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why gentleness and kindness is so important in our relationships is if you're interested at all in influencing your partner, if you're interested at all in trying to help them become a better person, good luck trying to do that without gentleness. It's like the great prerequisite of influencing another human being, because everyone's spirit, their consciousness, their spirit, their soul is made up of gentleness. Mm-hmm. So when you're trying to speak truth to someone's soul, you have to speak that same language, which is gentleness. Yeah. And so the soft startup's kind of cool because it's like, an example might be like, hey, there was something that came to my mind and I was hoping to share with you if you're open to listen. Versus like, you're not seeing that correctly. Mm-hmm. Those are two comparisons.
Why are you being like this? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
So that's not a natural part of who I am, but it's something that can be developed in anyone. Mm-hmm. If you seek it, like anything else. So the last one on kindness maybe too is kindness is, I think of just like general care and like support for people we care about. And I think the biggest principle with kindness that comes to my mind is it doesn't happen by accident. It is intentional. So when you think of kindness and showing love, make sure it's intentional, like actually plan on it. Yeah. And so what does this look like? Well, it looks like waking up in the morning and saying like, how can I make my partner's day better? Or thinking of your friend and being like, oh, I know that they're struggling right now. What is something I can do? You actually plan it out. people think like it just happens on a whim. Sometimes it can, I'm not discounting that, but most of the time it's intentional and kind of planned out.
Oh yeah.
One of my goals right now is every night on my list of my nightly routine, on the top of that list is take time to connect with your wife. And I'm not doing it by accident. I'm leaving my laptop. I'm coming home and I'm like, first thing on my list. And you know, most of the time she's asleep because she goes to bed sometimes like 7. I'm like, I'm like, sometimes, no, I'm just kidding. Sometimes I'm like, oh, nice. I'm out of the.
Looks like I don't have to connect tonight.
I'm just kidding. So cool. Intentional connection is intentional. Kindness is intentional. Okay, the other part of this deep love is to envy not. So the deepest form of love does not envy, it envies not. So let's talk about what that means.
What would it be envying? Like a quality of a person or?
Yep.
Okay.
Envy, let's talk, what does it mean to envy? It means envy is actually a form of deception. It's a belief that if I have what this person has, that I'm going to be happier in my life. If I have, and usually it's I think we can see qualities in other people and desire those, and I think that's very positive.
Mm-hmm.
But when envy takes root is this belief that if I have this characteristic, if I look like this person, if I have the legs or the body of this person, or if I have the type of money or car that this person has, then I will be respected, or then I will be enough, or then I will be. So envy really hits at an insecurity that
Something
we have
that you
with
crave for.
And anyone knows this, that when we feel, so envy is, another word for envy is basically insecure. When we have insecurity, when we have this deeper insecurity, everyone knows that definitely affects the love that we can give in a relationship. Why? Well, because envy it requires us to focus on us and our own, I don't know, shortcomings or whatever, our own, and not. It's obviously fine if these things come up. There's nothing wrong with them coming up. But how are we responding? Are we trying to dive deeper?
Yeah.
We're trying to learn?
If the goal is this deep form of love, then you can't just stop at envying it. You know, it's got to eventually show some form of increased love towards that person. So it can't just be, the answer can't just be just avoid looking at it, or don't talk about your insecurity, or like it, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to lead to something good at the end of that thought.
Well, and to go back to Dane's question, which I think was really good, is maybe the first step before feeling it or working through it is I have to be aware of it in the first place. So these insecurities become really valuable because they can help us to be aware of what really is.
Yeah.
And then we can choose to accept it.
And you can intentionally be on top of those things.
Exactly.
I could imagine that envy is probably one of the most difficult things to be accepting of, like that feeling.
Well, we don't want you to accept that this is there and this is just who I am. This is just a part of me. People confuse that. I just need to accept this. They misuse that term. Acceptance means to follow the path, to get rid of it, to root it out, to dig it out.
Is acknowledging a fair?
Acknowledging is definitely the first step. I have to acknowledge that there's a weed in my backyard before I even think about. I have to see the weed in my backyard before I even think about going to dig it out.
It's like a acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Admittance. admitting. Yeah.
Another way envy shows up is jealousy.
Yeah.
It's basically probably a better word, jealousy. I love this description. So anytime when we think of jealousy, if you feel jealous or envy comes up for you when you see another woman or see another man or whatever, if that comes up naturally, it's okay. What's happening unconsciously is what you are lacking inside. Excuse me. What you are lacking inside, you are seeking outside of you. And in Buddhism, you can never find what you're lacking inside. You can never find that outside ever. You seek that from on the outside. You seek that status. You seek that money. And you never actually feel or find what you're looking for. It is the empty road, the path that leads to emptiness. I think this is really cool too. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. I wrote this down. I really like this. What does it mean how do I know if I'm free of this? Well, it's freedom from comparison. It's about shifting your focus away from the constant comparison that fuels insecurity or a sense of lack. What I have noticed is even if there's no deeper insecurity there, if we're not aware of our comparing, like just mentally, that can lead to envy. It's not as deeply rooted as some pain or deeper insecurity, but but I really like this part. When envy is there, or when we don't have that jealousy there, it frees you to celebrate others' victories without it diminishing your own worth.
I love that.
Why do some people really struggle with like genuinely being happy for other people? A lot of people that I've talked to, they want to feel happy for other people, but it just doesn't come up naturally.
There might even be like a brief thought, like, be nice if I had that kind of a victory. Or, I've heard those things before.
I see this a lot in therapy with women who struggle getting pregnant. This is becoming a lot more of an issue for whatever reason, for a lot of reasons, birth control and maybe diet and emotion, a lot of factors, I think, genetics too, whatever. But imagine imagine a woman who just really wants a child and wants to raise a family, but she just can't get pregnant. That is really painful. And the sadness that is involved in that, the loss that is involved in that. And then her best friend comes over and is so stoked and shares the news with her that she's having a baby and it's a boy and she's so blessed and all this stuff. And wow, that's really difficult. Now, like we've talked about, there's going to be a natural blockage if that first woman, the woman that can't get pregnant, if she hasn't taken the time to feel the sadness and to find hope, because sadness is a loss of hope, and to find the hope from that and to follow that through, that is automatically going to get in the way of her being able to be authentic for another person.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful form. Isn't that such a beautiful form of connection to genuinely feel happy for somebody else? I'm not saying that happens all the time for me, but I love when I genuinely feel that. Like, it's like me experiencing it. Like, I'm like, oh, like, it's so beautiful. And that is part of like pure love. Again, which goes back to us making sure we're dealing with our own emotions.
And if you something I realized going to visit some family over the holidays, like, kids are a great tool for being excited about things like that, like getting practice with that, man. like, what's this? And it's their first time seeing it or something. And you get to revel in that with them for just a moment. And you get to feel that pure joy that they feel about that. And you're jumping around with them about it. You know, it's, if you have a hard time finding those experiences in your regular life and you have people that you know that have young kids or whatever, you know, it does the soul a lot of good to play with some kids sometimes and just like feel the innocence and like the joy that they bring because everything's so new to them. That has helped me. My nephews are so cool and how excited they are about life, and I get to share in those little victories with them sometimes and remind myself how that feels.
I think that's like the definition of what it means to be cool.
What?
Is I can genuinely, unauthentically feel happy for another person.
Oh, yeah.
Like when people do that for me, like, dude, they're cool.
Oh,
like,
that's like the feeling.
It's like, dude, you want to be cool?
Celebrate your homies' victories with them.
Like really, okay, if you can't get there authentically, then all it is an indicator.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that you still need to let go of or look at.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it means to be cool in my mind.
It's a cool barometer for coolness.
How cool. And so
How cool.
yeah. And I just want to say, it's not like you have to be perfectly emotionally healthy for that to happen. Like, you know, it's not that far. It's maybe not that far out of reach, but what I've noticed is when people just start to be interested in looking more at their emotions and what they need emotionally and spiritually, it begins to, there's a softening and an opening that begins to happen for someone. And even though you still have some stuff to work through, maybe you can still genuinely feel that.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating room for that just by starting to work on your stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's like all or nothing, you know?
I really actually think that's a great topic of conversation. Just the ability to find like pure joy in the success of others. I think honestly, because I think it also speaks to the level of gratitude that person has.
Oh, totally. Yep.
For just their state of existence or living, being, feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, what's cool, Dane, about what you're saying is it brings up this like theme that I think we're kind of talking about is, what does it mean to have the deepest form of love? It means being able to join with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I have the range because I'm active in dealing with my own emotional stuff. I have the range to join them in pain. I have the range to join that person in joy and really like have a ticket, you know, an admission to that event. And it sounds so cliche, but I guess this is just having an impact on me personally as we talk about this, because it really does bring you happiness, even if it's not you. It's such a beautiful gift. You feel like the joy of life. It really doesn't matter if it's yours or someone else's. It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
I think the more joy I've actually experienced in my life, to be honest, has come from my job over the last 10 years and really feeling that, like I said, I don't do that all. It's not like that doesn't happen for me all the time, but when it happens, I'm filled.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best. It's the gift that comes from healing and letting go. If you needed more motivation for that. I love it. Pure love. Okay, as we move forward, pure love is not, these two kind of go together in my mind. Pure love vaunteth not itself. And pure love, the deepest form of love, is not puffed up. I'm talking too much, sir. I would love to get your thoughts on what that means to you. What does it mean to be puffed up. And maybe how does that affect the love that we can have for other people?
Well, I think that one, honestly, I think that one's like one of the more obvious, like spelled out ones for you is how can you love someone that you think you're more important than?
Well said.
How? Like,
Yeah.
if you think that you deserve more respect than them, or you deserve more, I don't know, validation than them, or more consideration than them, it doesn't matter what, you know? But what were you going to say?
Oh, I love that, man. I mean, I laughed because when you said it, it was just such a pure truth. It's like literally, how can you love someone that you think you're better than?
It's not going to be love, or not the fullest version, and that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
We're talking about the deepest, real love, not imitation love.
What it leads to, and I feel some guilt for this one myself. Maybe not currently, or maybe I don't know. This is good. It's good for all of us to look at this stuff individually. But I know there's been times in my own marriage when I've thought I was maybe better than my spouse. And I see this a lot in most marriages. Someone isn't aware of it. But what happens when you start to think you're better than somebody else? What are the symptoms of that so that you can recognize it?
Shortness, impatience, harshness.
And in my experience early on with my wife, I'm hoping I don't do this anymore. We might have to bring her on and she can give us the full. But like, you avoid them more. You just like, they're there. Like you unconsciously have like, they are there for me. They need to like do more for me.
Right. That's an interesting, you can't tolerate someone that you don't think less of, right?
It's like the king servant archetype. The king believes he's better than his servants. So he demands things from his servants. It's fully expected that they do more for him than he does for them. I think that's pretty cool. I love this, man. When it comes to this whole is not puffed up, is think of something that's puffed up. It is inflated above its natural size.
Oh, that's awesome.
Something that is puffed up is inflated above its natural size.
It's fake.
It's
right?
all fake. It's air. It's just air. So
that's perfect. The imagery with that, you know, pufferfish is like a literal symbol of that.
It's either like air or muscle.
Yeah.
Because I think of, I naturally think of like, you know, maybe the bro who is deep down has some insecurities that he's not even aware of, that he's avoiding because he's got to be the strong, masculine, successful, whatever. But, you know, he's really ripped. He's the persona that I'm actually better or healthier than I actually really am. And obviously not everyone. I'm just, that's what comes to my mind.
We've probably seen a few of them in our lives, and that's why maybe it comes up.
Well, there's nothing about, yeah. And maybe that's not the best example, but that's what comes up. It's just somebody being somebody that is insecure. It goes back to the whole insecurity thing. I have this unconscious, deeper insecurity. So I have to put myself above. I have to inflate myself. I have to put myself above people. I have to appear better than who I believe I am. What if you believed that you were enough? What if you felt that you were enough? Truly? You wouldn't have to puff yourself up. And I know that women can sense and pick up on this like crazy in the dating world. So a lot of guys that I see, you know, I don't know why relationships aren't working out. often the reason.
Hmm.
And obviously it happens for women too. I think culturally it's focused a lot on appearance. I'm not good enough, or I don't feel like I'm good enough unless I am a certain weight or look a certain way, and inflated above its natural size. So be willing to start, just so poke a pin in there. If you want to do it like the aggressive exposure therapy way, you poke a pin in that inflated balloon. And then I wonder how people start viewing you. Most of us are surprised, like, oh, people actually still like me, even though,
Yeah.
so it's hard to do that. But if you feel like you can start doing that, that's like the quickest way to help start changing and what does that look like? It looks like just starting to be more honest. Like, yeah, like I'm really struggling, or yeah, like I'm not that great at that. Like just being more honest about who you actually are.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking about, was like, I grew up with this definition of confidence, that confidence is just being honest about your actual capabilities. And it's like, match that with what puffed up means, and it's appearing to be
inflated
above your natural side. That's lying, technically.
Yep.
And you can't find true confidence when you're lying about it.
Wow. You said that another time.
I did, in a different
And that
podcast.
is such a powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for saying that, man. That's a cool. So what does it mean to have true and deep confidence? Honesty.
Good, the bad, the ugly, it doesn't matter. Be honest.
And people, look what happened. Like, watch what happens. Like, put it to the test. People respect authenticity.
In a world that's less and less authentic, of course they're going to respect that.
In a world that's becoming more masculine, which means in a world that's covering up more of the spiritual, in a world that's covering up more of the emotional, and it's all about like the appearance of things.
Puff yourself up.
Puffed up appearance. Now, I have to say, I think it's so dope when somebody is spiritually dialed in and they have an emotional, like they're really emotionally healthy and connected, and they're full of love, and they drive a Porsche. Like, that's cool.
It's all
when
of
they
it.
don't fit that stereotype, it's like, and obviously it doesn't matter what car you drive, but I just like, I love meeting people that not everyone that drives a 911 is puffed up,
Yeah.
Those are beautiful cars.
They really are.
It's cool when they actually reflect a beautiful soul. Okay, so pure love, deeper love, seeks not her own, seeketh not her own.
That makes me think about the time where we were talking about attachment versus connection, where when you're attached, you're seeking some type of something back.
You're needing someone or something to have more balance or fulfillment in your life.
Right. And then connection, you're not seeking anything in return. You want the connection, right? That's what I think about with that, is when you're like, how can you love when you're trying to get something for you? Is it disingenuous then, whatever you're doing?
Yeah, again, I really, it's for me, and I've seen this in a lot of people. It comes back to is the whole intention thing. It's like, okay, Ernest is coming over. My friend is coming over. Can I intentionally try to make it about them? Can I have them be the star of this show or this moment? That's a part of pure love, is making it about other people. Because I don't need it. I think that's what you're saying. I don't need it to be about me.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think it's totally okay to want it to be about us sometimes. I think that's fine. Like, I think that's just a natural human, like, oh, I kind of want to just talk or have someone listen. Like, that's fine. But when I need it, that's when it overrides the moment.
Yeah.
We've all had that friend where every time we meet up with them, they are they're just going to tell their stories or dump their crap. And it's like we could be there or not, and it seems like it wouldn't make a difference, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's okay. I don't want to, but that's a good example of what comes to mind with seeking your own.
What if somebody doesn't notice that they're doing that?
If we feel impressed in the moment, can we, with gentleness, maybe help them see that?
Mm.
But sometimes somebody has to want, to hear that too, So
Yeah.
Dane?
I was going to say it would take some darn good intuition to be able to bring that up to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, you're right. It has to be intuitive. It can't be, yeah, for sure.
If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.